So there's maybe a moment where we can't necessarily nail down a starting 11, but I like that we've got a handful of players that we can sort of maybe highlight and chat a little bit about in terms of the season to come for this team. But I think with all of this, there's been these questions right around this Orlando Pride team as they enter 2022. And I think one of the biggest burning questions for us as this team officially steps into the 2022 season is, will they actually lean into their rebuild? There has been a number of times where maybe that word has been viewed as a negative, right? It sort of has this perception as if, there isn't going to be anything impactful or inciting that's happening with a team that's in the middle of a rebuild. But I don't feel that way about this Orlando Pride team. I want to see them lean into a rebuild with enthusiasm and with excitement. And my hope is by that extension of that, their fans, their community in Orlando will rally behind that. There's a lot of young prospects here to keep an eye on. And while we did highlight a player like Viviana Villacorta, there's a number of others, right, who are within that as well. And highlighting Courtney Peterson as that next level, next step player is, again, just one of many. I mean, we're talking about players making their arrival to an Orlando Pride team that are NWSL experienced level players like Darian Jenkins.
Yeah.
At this point, a player like Leah Pruitt. They are rejoining another club in their professional careers. And you have to believe that they are probably excited to get in the mix of a team that is an established franchise, but is still trying to conceptually build something new. So that's my biggest burning question for this team going into 2022. Is it a rebuild? Lean into it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think if they do lean into it, it's almost like when you have to go to that family party that you don't really want to go to, and who are you going to talk to, and it's going to be awkward and uncomfortable, and can you leave early? Like, they have the 2022 season ahead of them. Go into this season with maybe like minimal expectations. And I mean that in like a very positive way, in like, okay, how can we rebuild? How can we try different formations and different players in different positions and different player personnel combinations on the field? Lean into that. Go for all the different dips at the snack table and try them all on one pretzel. See what works really well. Just lean into it as much as they can. And at the end of the season, I mean, it's almost like looking back to 2021 at the end of that regular season, Kansas City, the expansion club for last season, they leaned into their last place finish for the 2021 year. And they kind of wiped their slate clean and said, okay, let's just go out there and win the games that we can. And they played spoiler at the end of the season. Not that Orlando is there by any means, but can they just go in every single day and try to get something out of that day, no matter what it can be? And you're right. It's if they can lean into this rebuild. I know you mentioned the starting 11. I can't give you one right now. There are so many holes in it. And I want Amanda Cromwell, head coach of the Pride, to use that and try to move players around. Even Marta, throw her in a different position, right? Like, try her out on the wing, not in the center mid, or drop her back a little deeper and see if she can create moving forward with the ball. Just try out a lot of different things and use this year to your advantage, because they are an established club. They're not going anywhere. They have an MLS affiliate. So use this year to just get better and grow the game for some younger, inexperienced players.
It's preseason, right? It's like, that's what it's for. Try some stuff. It's preseason. Yeah. Let's see what happens there in terms of a projected finish, right? This is always the fun part of the episode where we know we get to revisit and see how wrong we were. When we look back into our attacking third way too early power rankings, we did have Orlando Pride placed last in those rankings. And I'm not going to front everybody. Witnessing the offseason that took place, a lot of some of the chaos, the biggest acquisition being at this point, lots of allocation money, right? I think we're going to stay in that category. I think maybe be ambitious for Orlando Pride and say that perhaps maybe give them a range somewhere from the 9 to 12 place. There are 2 expansion clubs coming into the fold, and it has history has shown us that expansion sides tend to struggle a little bit to gain their footing in NWSL as things kick off. So there are 2 other teams to maybe contend for that kind of bottom place, but there's going to be some things that this team has to work on moving forward. And I don't think it's unfair to put a number this early in the year. And I would love to come back and talk about it and be proven wrong. I mean, that's our other favorite part of this, besides talking about defenders and goalkeepers and stuff like that.
It really is. And when you look at just Orlando Pride and all that they've lost, I'm going to put them in that 9 to 12 range. We put them at 12 in December, but literally last in the league for 2022. But giving them the 9 to 12 range is better because we have to take into account the other 11 teams in this league for 2022. And there are 2 expansion sides that there are so many unknowns between Angel City and San Diego Wave FC. And we've already done a number of these previews with North Carolina and Gotham and Portland. And North Carolina is another team that Sean Nahas is not calling it a rebuild year. But they've lost a lot of parts too. We didn't rate them that high. We put them just out of playoff contention. So that also throws a wrench in Orlando's plan for 2022 and vice versa. Orlando could play spoiler to North Carolina and kind of duke it out towards the end of it. But for 2022, it's towards the bottom of the league. This is a rebuild year for Orlando Pride. Can they lean into that and push for that 9th spot, not the 12th spot, right? It's every little point that counts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, no one's trying to come on here and act like they're not going to compete. I think early in the season in 2021, Orlando Pride came out on this ridiculous, 7-game undefeated streak, right? To sort of start off the season. And then unfortunately their season just took a bit of a tailspin coming out of the summer and then down into the stretch of the final months of the season. And while Sydney Leroux is a very talented forward, you cannot expect one player to kind of save your season, right? And we saw that a little bit down the stretch. And while Leroux gave us amazing highlight-worthy goals, late last-minute stoppage time goals, it's a team sport, right? So you got to see that come to light with this team moving forward. And you're talking about a team that was kind of in the middle of playoff discussion until they were pretty much out of it with about 2 weeks to 3 weeks remaining in the season for NWSL. And maybe that's something that they can lean into as well a little bit, that they were part of the mix for an extended period amount of time until they just simply weren't. So we'll see where this team ends up.